Hey everybody, this is Mr. Moffin coming at you with another APGov video. Today we're taking a look at topic 5.10, modern campaigns. Now, we've talked previously about campaigning for president and campaigning for Congress. Now, a lot of that was discussed was kind of more traditional things to consider. This is going to be taking a look at, a much more, contemporary perspective in terms of things that you want to be factoring in as a modern candidate. So, keep in mind that, as a candidate, you have to build around you a solid campaign organization. It's like, putting together an army, if you will. Leading that army, besides the candidate, is going to be the campaign committee. And this is going to be a group of people that are going to be the top advisors for that candidate. And, depending on, what level of office you're trying to seek, maybe it might be a high profile office like president or governor or senator, something like that, then you're going to be hiring professionals to do those jobs. And yes, those are professions. There are people that are professional campaign advisors. Some of these folks are specialists in media relations. Some of these folks are specialists in terms of areas of policy, like foreign policy or healthcare. You've got folks that are specialists in terms of coordinating what you might be wanting to do at a national level if you're running for president with state and local party organizations. You would have, professional campaign treasurers to manage the money. So you would have all of those folks working for you, leading what would be an army of people helping to try to get you elected. Now, when you're running for, offices that are not as high profile, like you might be running for like state senate or state house or, local school board even, it's important to have those things as well. But those folks, are not typically hired professionals to do those jobs. Those advisors tend to be family members, friends. You're operating at a much lower budget point. And so it's just kind of, everybody, all hands on deck, just everybody kind of pulling together to help out, So that's kind of an important thing to keep in mind. But the single biggest, message from this is that, or lesson from this is that as a candidate, you're not doing this alone. You cannot do it alone. It is impossible to run a campaign solely by yourself and expect to be able to win. Now, of course, when we talk about these campaigns, your political party affiliation plays an important role in this. And those party organizations can be quite beneficial in terms of being able to provide resources for you. If you are the nominee, you're going to benefit from the infrastructure that the party at the national, state, and local levels already have in place. Remember, they do their own fundraising. And if you are the nominee, then they will give you money as that official nominee. They're going to do it. So that's less money you have to raise on your own. Parties are very good at, obviously, organizing, canvassing efforts, electioneering efforts. In other words, you're your own campaign, but you're part of that broader, party campaign. And so, you might be, you might see folks knocking on doors for you as they're also knocking on candidates for members of that party running for governor or senate or whatever. So you benefit from that apparatus. You benefit from the party's organization trying to get more people registered to vote and generally trying to target people that are of your same ideological lean to be registered to vote. So if you become your party's nominee, you then get a wide treasure trove of resources at your disposal beyond what you are already generating for yourself. Now note, a lot of it once again is predicated on being the nominee. Typically, the party does not allocate resources to any individual candidate until they win that party's nomination. They don't generally do that. And note, it's not just money that comes your way. You also get access to the party's list of donors and party supporters and registered voters and all that kind of stuff. So you get access to email addresses, for example, that you would probably not have access to. And with that kind of information, you can begin to send campaign messages to these folks. And of course, we know with modern technology that then can be very micro-targeted towards the issue that is most important to that potential voter. Of course, campaigns are heavily affected by recruitment. In other words, who these candidates actually are in many cases the result of recruitment by the parties themselves. And so, they might think, okay, who would be a competitive candidate in this district or this state, and they try to get those folks to run. A lot of times, as we said before, those potential candidates that are recruited tend to already have, a decent amount of money in their own right. They tend to have a pretty good amount of name recognition. They tend to be fairly popular in the endeavors that they're already a part of. So remember, the parties play a role in that. And note, when the parties do allocate resources, yes, if you're that party's nominee, you're going to get X amount of resources no matter what. However, there is a large chunk of money that's pretty discretionary in terms of how they want to allocate this money, be it the Republican National Committee or the Democratic National Committee. And even within that, they've got things like the Democratic Congressional Committees and the National Republican Congressional Committees. And so they can look at this money that might be allocated for congressional races only and decide, okay, how do we want to allocate this money within congressional races? Because let me tell you, there is no point in allocating that money equally. We've mentioned before that, the vast majority of these elections are not even statistically competitive. There are many candidates that are incumbents that they don't need any advertising help. They don't need any resources from the national party because either running unopposed or they have such a built-in advantage that they're going to win by 20 or more points. So where do you spend that money? You spend that money in areas where the races are much more competitive. You spend that money where, probably especially whether you're a challenger and it's close and you might be able to take down an incumbent, a lot of money gets funneled in that direction. So keep that in mind. The money that is going out to these candidates is certainly far from equal. Of course, also keep in mind, as a campaign, you are bringing in money from outside the party, and a lot of this money is going to be coming through the form of PACs, political action committees. And political action committees are typically the fundraising campaign donation wings of interest groups. So, if you can win an endorsement from an important interest group, like say the NRA, well then they will have affiliated political action committees that raise money and then will donate money to your campaign, which, is very important. 527s work in a similar manner. We'll talk more about 527s, when we talk about campaign finance. But the general gist of it is that every last nickel helps. Every last dollar makes a difference. And why? Well, in part, the costs of running campaigns have gone up tremendously over the last 50 years. It's become more expensive to advertise on television, on radio. Being able to have the infrastructure to do social media targeting and all that kind of stuff, it has gotten more and more expensive. And therefore, if we know that money is the key to making you competitive, and it is now costing you more money to be competitive, then that means you're going to have to allocate more of your time and attention to fundraising. Now, there are the occasional candidates that are so wealthy, like a Michael Bloomberg, for example, who had a very short, ill-timed campaign, but nonetheless, he was able to throw down $1 billion of his own money like that. He didn't have to, go hitting up people for any kind of donations, but that is very, very rare. Even wealthy people are going to be needing to raise outside money to help with the ever-growing costs of their campaigns. And it might be stunning to think about how much time and effort it is dedicated to trying to raise that money. I mean, take a look at this right here. Candidates for the House spend approximately 25% of their campaign time spent on purely fundraising. Could come in the form of hitting up wealthy people via phone calls, asking for their donations. It could be attending, large fundraising dinners and events and things like that. And if you talk to any candidate running for Congress, for example, this is what they hate the most. They absolutely despise having to raise money because you're basically got your hands out. I mean, you're out there begging for cash, and that is, for folks that have a certain amount of gravitas and a certain amount of respect. It's a very humbling kind of thing because you're out there with hands extended. You're showing empty pockets. You're begging and pleading for money on a continual, regular basis. House members in particular feel that the fundraising component of it never ends because the terms are so short, and it's just right around the corner the next election is, and you don't want to lose any financial support that you've had in the past. It never really stops. You never totally really get out of fundraising mode, especially as a member of the House of Representatives. Now that being said, more and more of that money that is being generated is coming through online solicitation, mostly because it's cheaper, it's more efficient. So you do see more of that, but still though, members of Congress, they spend a considerable amount of their time raising money. And of course, that it's not only unseemly, but it is, something to be critical of because time that is being devoted to purely fundraising is not time that is being dedicated to the needs of constituents, to developing good policy and things like that. So, there's many ramifications for that. So, okay, we will leave it there for now. We'll see you next time.